Our first reading today is Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Our second reading is from Acts, chapter 9, verses 36 through 43. In Joppa there was a disciple named Tabitha. In Greek, her name is Dorcas. She was always doing good and helping the poor. About that time she became sick and died, and her body was washed and placed in an upstairs room. Lydda was near Joppa, so when the disciples heard that Peter was in Lydda, they sent 2 men to him and urged him, "Please come at once." Peter went with them, and when he arrived, he was taken upstairs to the room. All the widows stood around him, crying and showing him the robes and other clothing that Dorcas had made while she was still with them. Peter sent them all out of the room. Then he got down on his knees and prayed. Turning toward the dead woman, he said, "Tabitha, get up." She opened her eyes, and seeing Peter, she sat up. He took her by the hand and helped her to her feet. Then he called for the believers, especially the widows, and presented her to them alive. This became known all over Joppa, and many people believed in the Lord. Peter stayed in Joppa for some time with a tanner named Simon. And finally, John chapter 10, verses 22 through 30. Then came the festival of dedication at Jerusalem. It was winter, and Jesus was in the temple courts walking in Solomon's colonnade. The Jews who were there gathered around him, saying, "How long will you keep us in suspense? If you are the Messiah, tell us plainly." Jesus answered, "I did tell you, but you do not believe. The works I do in my Father's name testify about me, but you do not believe because you are not my sheep. My sheep listen to my voice. I know them, and they follow me. I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish. No one will snatch them out of my hand. My Father who has given them to me is greater than all. No one can snatch them out of my Father's hand. I and my Father are one." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Those words have brought peace for countless generations, and I can imagine them bringing comfort to Dorcas as well. There's no indication that her illness was long or traumatic, nothing to indicate her age. All we know about her is that she was beloved in her community. We assume that she sewed because of the stories of the widows. We believe that she did more than simply provide the necessities. She gave her best so others could walk with pride in the community. She kind of reminds me of my own mom, who was constantly knitting and doing things for other people. My 10-year-old self is still in awe of how she managed to knit complex patterns without looking, and while simultaneously reading her latest novel. We were talking recently about refugees who have had to leave their homes in Ukraine, and how she wanted to go into her closet, fill her arms, and start giving sweaters, even her favorites, to people so they'd have something soft and warm. And also made with love, I said. In some ways, that's what it's about. Dorcas didn't just give away any old thing because there still might be some use in it for someone. She gave her best. Things that she loved and that she would probably miss. But she did it without thinking twice. It was the right thing to do, and in those moments there's no turning back and no regret. I know I'm embellishing her story, but doesn't Dorcas deserve that? I understand her importance in the narrative, just like I understand Lazarus's importance. Lazarus demonstrated Christ's divinity. Dorcas demonstrated Christ's immortality. But Dorcas is immortal too, elevated to that status through her caring and good deeds. Hers is a gentler story than Lazarus's. Lazarus was dead and rotting in the tomb. He was jarred back to life, almost unwillingly, it seems. He kind of feels like a trophy, paraded around to make a point. I wonder if he was ever able to resolve that and move forward, or if he found himself in a perpetual state of limbo and regret, never knowing exactly who he was. Dutiful, but scared. Dorcas, I feel, had a choice. Yes, it made Peter look good to resurrect her, but ultimately I think it was her decision to come back. And I can tell you what that moment might have looked like, because I've been there. I was experiencing stage 4 metastatic neuroendocrine cancer and having success with the holistic treatments I was using. That afternoon I was getting a treatment, microcurrent and therapeutic massage. As I was laying on the table, I got a very intense vision, a feeling that I was being lifted up. I looked down and people who cared about me were there. It was the most joyful party. Everyone was smiling, and there was so much love. They were happy and excited. It shocked me, actually, to see so much positive energy and light. I never felt worthy of anything so special. There were others there too, those who had tried to harm me. They were lingering in the shadows, angry at what was happening and prevented from being in the light. They had failed, and they could not come to terms with that. They were irrelevant, and I could finally see that. And then I realized what was happening. I'm dying, I thought. So this is what it's like. It wasn't fear, curiosity, really. I looked and saw that I wasn't just floating. I was being carried. One angel on each arm. A dark one I recognized as Michael, and a blonde one I recognized as Raphael. Both of them had been a big part of my spiritual and healing journey. Michael brought healing, but also strength. He helped heal my spirit, so Raphael could help heal my body. The light was beautiful, and we were moving away from everyone I cared about. I felt complete peace and love, and I was crying, sobbing. There was such great joy. And then I said, but I don't want to go. For all of that peace and joy, I said, but I don't want to go. I could barely get the words out. Michael looked at me and smiled. We just wanted to make sure you really meant it. I laughed a little through all those cheers and thought, wouldn't you know? God sends me a cheeky angel. I looked down, and all of the special people who had been waving me off were now drawing me back with equal joy. I opened my eyes, and Pete was there. Yes, Pete was there with his hands on me. I felt something happen. He said it with the understated, enigmatic smile he gives me when something big has happened. I think we're done for today. So I believe Dorcas made the choice to come back. She didn't have to. I can imagine her being lifted up to the light with the widows and all the other special people in the town celebrating and waving her on. She's not afraid of it. It's beautiful, peaceful, and embracing. But she's going back. Her life has purpose, probably more than she realized, and that's the right thing for now. That glimpse of what's to come is a gift for her to hold in her heart as she continues on in this world. It gives her peace and quells her fears. When the time is right, she will go joyfully. I leave you this story to contemplate. Is it truth? Is it your truth? It is my truth. Could Dorcas have simply appeared to be dead in a catatonic state that was a consequence of fever or her illness? Could I have been dreaming or hallucinating because some hormones were being thrown around by tumors? If you look hard enough, you can find non-spiritual and even plausible explanations. But let me take you to John. The Jews who were there gathered around him, saying, "How long will you keep us in suspense? If you are the Messiah, tell us plainly." Jesus answered, "I did tell you, but you do not believe. The works I do in my Father's name testify about me." The crowd wanted to be told what to believe. Come out and say it. Tell us. Give us something concrete. And Jesus responded with, "You have to decide that for yourself." It's almost as if he's shrugging. If you haven't figured it out, it's on you. The question is it enough for Christ to simply exist? Are his teachings and miracles sufficient proxy for his divinity? That's the conundrum of faith. It can't be approached solely from the head, for the head will always be able to explain away spirituality. However, it also can't be approached solely from the heart, because you'll never fully commit. There's a tension and a struggle between the two. The people had seen Jesus' works, and it created a conflict between the head and heart. They wanted a word from him to reconcile that, and he wouldn't give it. They had to strike that balance on their own. Think and feel. Let the head and heart wrestle. Let them talk and listen to each other. Some will decide that Dorcas' story is a quaint artifact that doesn't hold up to 21st century scrutiny. Some will decide that I believe my story is true, but it's not their truth. Others will embrace both as a testament to something beyond our sensory terrestrial existence. Each must follow their own path and reach their own understanding. Jesus didn't deny anyone the opportunity to follow him. These two statements are logically equivalent. You do not believe because you are not my sheep. You are my sheep because you do believe. He challenges the people who need reassurance to find their path, and when they do, they will be committed to it. Dorcas is alive. While her actual story may challenge us to believe or disbelieve, no one could deny that her spirit of compassion and caring exists in many around us. My friend in Ukraine wrote these words this week. She wasn't writing about Dorcas, but volunteers in Melitopol who are bringing food and supplies to those who have nothing. But the story is the same. They do not brag about their work, and day after day they give everything they have, help to survive these difficult times before our victory, and they believe. They believe in Ukraine. Good, she says, always comes back. Look around. Dorcas is alive. Good always comes back. Amen.